the market crashed when I was out in Vegas. I come back, every single deal was vanished. Right? So then I went from feeling like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I've got all this money due to come to me, to me being broke.
For the people who don't know you, can you kind of explain who you are, sort of what you do, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So Lee Anderson, I founded Le Burn Limited, which is a residential property company. So we do property management, we lease residential buildings and work with local authorities for various different homelessness schemes. We have in-house eviction support service. We have a maintenance division, which we now service other sort of housing associations and other sort of facility management companies.
Okay.
And supported accommodation, and we're going into tech.
Amazing. So obviously you mentioned a few things there. Now, presumably you didn't do all these things at once, and probably you didn't start off with having all these things in mind at the start of your journey.
No.
So can you kind of take us from when you kind of sort of founded Le Burn and the kind of the process from that? What was in your mind when you said, okay, I want to start a company, or was it I want to get into property? How did that sort of work, and how did that happen?
Survival.
That's
the real truth.
Okay.
Survival. I mean, I suppose there's an element of I kind of always wanted to have a business, right, baby? So there's an element of that. But there was also like, I was broke. And so, so it was like I was broke.
It's always a good place to start, you know?
Yeah, you didn't have nothing to lose, innit?
There you go.
Didn't have nothing to lose, backs against the wall. And that, for me, that's always a good thing, right? I'm the best when my back's against the wall.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I decided to, well, actually, let me go back from the beginning, right? So I was working in the bank, first of all.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, good question. Oh, when was I in the bank? So I bought my first property in 2005. You're gonna make me expose my age. So I think I was 2005. I think I was 21 or 22 when I bought my first property. So I must have been 18, 19 at the time.
Okay.
Right? So probably 18, 19 when I was at the bank, probably something like that. And then I lost my job there. Yeah. Yeah, because I was doing deals. I don't know if I should actually say this, but I was doing deals from the bank.
Allegedly, you were doing deals.
Look at me now. But anyway, I got fired from the bank because I was using their phone to actually do deals. Right, so at the time, what I was doing is I was going to house builders.
Okay.
Right? Berkeley Homes, there's quite a few back in the day. And I would go to them and say, like, if I take 5 or 10 properties, can I get a discount, right? And they were like, yeah, of course. Like, they'll give you, back then you'll get like 15, 18% discount. So also...
That's a massive discount.
Yeah. That's,
especially
wouldn't be massive. It was kind of standard at the time. Like if you were taking bulk, it wouldn't be abnormal to get a sort of 15 to 18% discount. Right? And some things were different. You might get slightly lower, but that's kind of what you'd get. And then you can use that to package. I used to package up deals for clients and say, look, I'll pay your deposit, I'll pay your legal fees, I'll pay your stamp duty. So you'd package all that together, and then let's say back then you can get like a 95% mortgage. So I'd give 5% deposit, I'd pay 3% legals. Stamp duty, you probably allocate 1 or 2% towards your legal fees, and then the rest of that margin, in essence, was the profit. Right, so that's how I started. Okay. I was doing that for a while, but I was doing that whilst working.
At work. So you was deal sourcing at work, putting deals together.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that went wrong.
Well, I mean, you made money, so you can't really say it went wrong.
They didn't quite like that. Yeah. But I had some experience like in property. Yeah. So then I bought my first property in 2005. Okay. In Southampton.
So how old are you, 2005? I know we're showing your age and stuff, but it's important. It's relevant context.
I think I was early 20s.
Early 20s?
I was early 20s.
All right, we'll take that. Early 20s.
Something like that. So, yeah, I bought my first house 2005. And again, there wasn't a major plan. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Like, my dad bought a house in Southampton because my brother was going to university. So he was doing the whole, I'll buy a house for you and then you can let people like rent it and then it should be all work itself out. Anyway, so I was like, oh, I'll just copy. So my dad bought a house literally on that road, like one road, and my house ended up being on the adjacent road. So I just copied what I saw, in essence, right? So, but in my head, I was like, right, I'm going to be a property developer. I'm going to buy this house, and it's going to, you know, sell it, make loads of money, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
None of that happened. Right? None of that happened. So we bought that house for 127,000. Right? Didn't even have the money to really do the refurb that was needed, and also the house price wouldn't have gone up massively even if it did. So I bought it at the wrong price, right? So really, the value in buying property is what you buy it at, right?
Oh, so you make your money when you buy, not like kind of.
Yeah. You always make you always make your money when you buy, in essence, right? So you should be negotiating a good price from the beginning, and if you're getting upside, then great, right? So. But anyway, I didn't do any of that. Right? I bought probably at what the market price was, and also in that area there wasn't much uplift that I could get. Right? So I ended up just having a property on like for cash flow, which was fine. But from there, that property taught me a lot because I had loads of issues with that property. Right? So tenants stopped paying me. I also had a fire in the property.
Oh wow.
So I learnt just so much things through that particular property, which led me to then go on to some of the things that we have now, right? So anyway, so that property is happening, but now I'm living on £400 a month, I think. So I'm like, that's not going to do anything. Like, I can't live on £400. Then I started getting into bridging development, so bridging finance.
Okay.
So I had quite good relationships with people in banks, even though I got fired from one. But I had some good relationships at quite high level in banks. So I was able to organise development finance for some developers, and then they would pay me a percentage of the development loan amount. Okay. Right. So
that's what bridging finance is.
Bridging finance is, right? Okay. Yeah. So you're going to buy a bit of land, and you're going to plan to put this block on it, right? And it's going to be £1 million. You need to borrow £1 million. Great. So the development finance is going to probably charge you like a 1% finder's fee, but because I was seen as a broker, then they would charge you like a 2% or 1.5%, because that 0.5% or 1% is going to go to me. Right? So
did you need any qualifications to kind of do that? Because presumably you just jumped in and said, "This is who I am. This is what I do," with no sort of previous experience, and just kind of went in,
stumbled into it. Everything has been like one thing that's led to another.
That makes sense.
I was studying the CMAP because I was like, oh, maybe I should do finance and become a mortgage broker. Yeah. I was like, I could make way more money just introducing that conversation rather than being the person that's actually regulated and doing the paperwork.
So it's kind of like a middleman 100% business. Okay. Yeah. So where did the relationships with you say the banks and the bankers kind of come from? Because obviously you worked in a bank, but I feel like it's important to kind of establish, like, how did you meet these people? Did you go into certain events or?
No. Again, I was maybe a little bit lucky. So at the time, one of my good friends played football. Okay. So banks were touting him, in essence, to come to their bank because they had money. So from I can't remember some of the banks now. God, my mind's gone blank. But all the top commercial banks were like, okay, obviously bring your money here, right? And I'm with him all the time, so I'm beginning to build these relationships as well. And that's kind of how I built up that sort of.
So you leveraged your best friend essentially to kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's. I mean, I didn't know I was going to. No,
it's all networking. And something just kind of happened like that naturally. So it makes
organically, 100%.
So you started doing the bridging finance. So where did you go from there?
So bridging finance, that all went crashing when the market crashed. Okay. 2007. Yeah. 2007, 2008, market crash. And I remember at the time I had a ton of. By this time, my name's starting to bubble. So I had a number of deals going on. I thought, yes, I'm in the banks. I'm always going to make money. Like, this is forever. I was in Vegas. I'll never forget. I was in Vegas. I had about 17 deals going on, and I'm spending money I'm not spending money but I didn't have any problems. Because I knew, like, when I come back, all of these deals are due to happen. Right? Yeah. The market crashed when I was out. In Vegas. I come back, every single deal was vanished. Right, so then I went from feeling like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I've got all this money due to come to me, to me being broke.
17 deals to zero. So what was the worth, if you had to estimate, of those 17 deals, let's say?
I don't need to estimate. I kind of know.
Oh, you so how much money did you lose when the market crashed?
It was a six-figure sum.
Six-figure sum.
Right?
Okay.
So I was gonna personally have like 6 figures off the back of those deals.
In profit. Not
yeah.
just,
I didn't have any costs.
Wow.
At that point, I'm just running around with a phone.
Yeah.
Like, there was no real business. It was just like me.
That seems to be how a lot of entrepreneurs make their money, though. So is that what business is to an extent? Because what I've kind of seen is a lot of people, they make money from their phone or their laptop and things like that. And that's kind of what is kind of pushed like on social media and whatnot, especially. And then I think behind the scenes as well, like a lot of entrepreneurs I spoke to is they spend a lot of time on the phone and a lot of time doing emails. Like you mentioned earlier, you're doing kind of catch-up calls with people in your team and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like you're sort of managing. So are you very far removed from, let's say, like the front line of business, or where would you kind of put yourself in like
now?
In a hierarchy now? Yeah.
Yeah, so now for LeBurn, I'm not really involved operationally. Okay. But there's other things that we're doing, which, because they're sort of starting up at the early stages, I'm more
new business development.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some things that I'm more involved in, and that might be more like building the team now. So it's not very rare that I'll probably get involved operationally in anything, but I'm definitely more hands-on in like building the team. Like, and that might be, like for example, the maintenance company that we're dealing with, because we've got quite a big maintenance contract. It's quite important for me to build a team straight away. Whereas historically, that would be me, like just like, okay, there's this opportunity, I've got to make this happen. No way, that's never happening now. Yeah. So my time is spent on building the infrastructure and team around me straight away.
That makes sense, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of get stuck being the only person in their business, 100%. And they get stuck kind of, you're working in your business as opposed to on it. Yeah, so I think 100%. From your position, you can kind of look at things and be like, okay, cool, I need a new person in HR, I need a cleaner, etc., etc. Yeah. So that makes sense, because you kind of got more control over your time in a sense.
Got time to think. Money's made from thinking.
100%. Yeah. So obviously going back to your time in Vegas, so you came back, you lost all your deals.
Yes.
Talk to me about like your mindset at that time. Like, how did you overcome that problem?
Backs against the wall. That goes back to now the creation of where we are, right? So backs against the wall, got a son, fairly newborn son, haven't got no money now. Like, so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to get a job? That's not really probably me now.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, one, I got sacked.
Yeah, no, of course.
The CV doesn't look that great.
Yeah, but of course, you can do a little, of course. A couple of deletes, a couple of backspaces, and get a job. Get through it. You could have got a job.
Of course I could.
So what was really preventing you from getting a job?
Nothing. It just wasn't. I think I'm naturally an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Like, so I think at my core, or even when like from young, that's just kind of how I've been. But there's nothing wrong having a job. Like,
no, 100%.
I'm just trying to. If they paid me enough.
100%. I'm just trying to put myself in your mindset, because I feel like for a lot of people, they might try a business. Oh, business doesn't work. Oh, back to the job. That's kind of like the safe haven.
Okay.
So like for you in your perspective, like at that time, you saw a job as I can't go there. That doesn't make sense for me right now. I need to go and pursue this. So it's just trying to put myself in your.
You know what? No, it wasn't even that. It's not that I couldn't go and get a job. I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose.
Okay.
So I've got nothing to lose, so the only thing you can do is just keep swinging.
Yeah, only way is up.
Right.
Okay.
My back's against the wall, let's just keep swinging now, and we're going to hit something.
So what's the next move then?
So that's when I was like, okay, well, we went and kind of understand a little bit about property, because that's the only thing I've had any relationship with. I thought that I had longevity with the bank. I was like, oh, I'm never going to have any issue here. So I thought I had that sort of peace of mind security with the bank. So I was like, and that's what I was sort of seeking. So I was like, okay, well, who else can I get that security from if it's not going to be the banks? And I was like, well, is there a way that I can work with local authorities or the government, because they must pay me? And I just worked backwards from there. I was like, well, how can I work with a local authority and link that with property? Because that's the only thing I knew. So I was like, well, if I gave them properties, would they pay me in some way? And I just reverse engineered it back, right? So, okay, how does that relationship work? And then we understood how that relationship works. Okay, now I understand how that relationship works. How am I going to get these properties? Because I don't have any money, I can't buy these properties. How can I actually get these properties? And then that's when you begin to create the value proposition for why people should give you those properties. And off the back of that, it's like, oh, can I create margin? And that was it.
Okay.
And then we just lived off the margin.
Now we're kind of hearing your journey.
Yeah.
You've seen money coming in. It's like, okay, cool. You've got confirmation that what you're doing works to an extent.
Yeah.
So where do you go from there? Because a lot of businesses don't work and a lot of businesses don't make money.
Yeah.
So you've kind of overcome that hurdle, I would say, quite early in your journey to an extent.
Okay.
So what's the progression from there? Because a lot of people will kind of kick their feet up and just, I'm making a couple grand here and there.
Yeah,
I don't have to work at the bank anymore. I'm nice.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's your mentality and how did you kind of go from there, kick on and get to where you are now?
So it goes back to the theme of why I got into it, right? So the theme is for us to help landlords along their journey. And one of the first things that I had a problem with when I had my house was when the tenant wasn't paying, I didn't understand how to get my property back. And I made a mistake, right? So it ended up taking over a year to get my property back, right? So then the next thing was for me to create that service to is that problem just me and am I just silly and I just don't know? Or actually, and I don't think I'm very silly. So it's like there's probably other people that need that support. So then the next thing was to create the eviction support service.
Okay.
So that's to help landlords in that situation where they're not getting that money from the tenant, to get their property back so they can go and give it to a tenant which actually is going to pay them.
Okay.
So that was the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's always just like finding problems, or not even finding, like I see problems and I'm like, okay, well, what's the solution?
Yeah.
And as I said, that I've been doing that from a kid. That's just how my mind is. So nothing's really changed. I think I'd always be like that. So in terms of how we got here, there's just loads of problems. Yeah. So it's like, oh, there's that problem. Let's fix that.
It seems like problem solving in the simplest form is like the one way to kind of do all things. You kind of like, as you said, you're very methodical and like logical about it. It's like, okay, cool, I've got this problem. Does anyone else have this problem?
Yeah.
Can I find a solution to this problem? Okay, maybe they need the solution to this problem.
Yeah.
And then you kind of create your own value in that sense.
Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned like how you kind of got lucky in terms of like meeting the bankers and whatnot through your friend.
Yeah.
How can a person meet these people without having obviously the relationship with like a famous footballer or someone that's kind of in that world already? So if I'm starting from scratch, I don't know anyone, how can I network with people to kind of put myself in a similar position you sort of found yourself in? Is it as easy as saying just network, or is like, do you have to sort of create some value within yourself and kind of attract the people, or do you have to go and chase the people?
Good question. I'm not a very good networker.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable in that scenario. So like where you have stage networking events.
Yeah.
I'm not good in that situation. I'm very comfortable with people coming to me. I'm not comfortable going to people. Right. So for me, it's about doing the work, and then people come to you because you've done the work. Right. But I really rate and respect those that have that sort of personality type that can just go into a room and light up the room. It's just not me. Like I'm very comfortable just in my own space, and somehow I don't know how I end up connecting with people which is at a very decent level, but I don't know how. I don't actually know how.
Okay.
I'm not a good
you make
networker.
it seem like you've stumbled into it, but from obviously the time that I spent with you and stuff, that doesn't seem to be you. It seems like you seem quite magnetic in a sense of you've created value and people are sort of drawn to it. That's my like sort of like surface level like deduction.
Yeah, people say that. Like I can only tell you my personality.
100%.
But what people do say, and what I do believe in, is energy. So energy connects. Right? So if you're authentic and you're genuine, then you're going to connect with authentic, genuine people. Right?
Yeah.
Or people are going to take a liking to you. Or even if they don't take a liking to you, they're gonna be like, oh, I feel like this person's like who this person is. Like the person he's representing his true self, and people might connect with that. So I think there's an element of that, but my truth is I'm not comfortable in those big rooms where you can just go up to people and network and what do you do? Or what you do? That's just not me.
Okay.
But I'm social.
Yeah.
So if we have a conversation, I'm not like, I'm not shy, but I'm just not gonna, run around the room and do that. I'm just not. That's not my personality.
But you're still putting yourself in these environments to an extent, even if you're not sort of like working in the room, like you say, like the high energy entrepreneurs might do, for example.
Yeah.
So how much would you say environment has a role to play in success? In terms of the people you're around, in terms of even your like close environments, like your bedroom, your house, your kitchen. Like how much impact does that have on an entrepreneur, and how likely that they are to be successful?
Your network and the people you hang around with are probably the most. There's definitely a direct correlation to how successful you're going to be based upon the people you know or the people that know you. So going back to your thing, right? Is it important for how much people you know or how much people know you? I think it's way more important for how much people know me, right? Or how much people know you, right? Because I know Richard Branson. He doesn't know me. So there's nothing going to happen here, right? So if Richard Branson knows me and I can call Richard Branson, that's a different conversation altogether. So I think it's about who actually knows you. That's the game changer, right? So I hope that answers.
No, 100%. So I'm trying to sort of make sense of like the entrepreneurial world and like how it works and whatnot. So so you've created value with LeBurn and whatnot.
Okay.
You said you're not really. I don't want to say you're not interested in networking, but you're not. It's not something you're immediately drawn to, speaking to a bunch of people and trying to light up the room. That's not how your persona sort of.
I'm not comfortable with it.
Comfortable would probably be the best word.
I think it'd be good if I could.
No, 100%. There's always room to improve. We might meet you 10 years from now and you're exactly that type of person. Who knows? But I'm just trying to figure out, so how has success sort of latched onto you? Like, what are the things you're doing in your day-to-day that you would say sort of is attributed to success? So already we've established like your networking. Like you've got a solid network. You know how to make money in property. So you've already found a niche.
Sure.
So would you say that in the property niche is kind of like where you see yourself making your most money going forwards, or do you think, obviously you're expanding to tech and other areas of the business, do you see that as like the more long-term place for you to go to?
Tech has the biggest potential upside for sure.
For you or in general?
I think maybe even for general in terms of the amount of scale.
Okay.
Right, so because tech in essence can be like worldwide, right? So the scalability of tech is the thing which is really, really exciting, and there's not many things that can compare to tech from a scalability standpoint, right? So yeah, that probably has the biggest upside in terms of speed of execution to that point anyway. Yeah,
so you've got the tech element of the business, which is fairly new, I would say.
Yeah, it's pre-revenue. We're starting now.
Okay,
so
perfect. And you've got the property side. So what's made you kind of jump from the already proven and tested property side and try to jump into the tech field? Is it diversification, or have you kind of seen a limit on the property element that, like in terms of scalability, as you said, that you don't see in tech?
No, because the tech is linked to property.
Okay.
So for me, it's like everything that I do is linked to property.
It's all linked to property.
It's all linked to property. It's all things that I know, I understand.
Under one umbrella, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I understand it. It's just that this tech solution provides the solution to this problem.
Okay.
So I don't see it as a massive difference, right? Because I'm doing these things daily, and it's just like, oh yeah, well we can just adapt how we approach this, or actually this might be a better way to approach this, and that's pretty much how we look at those.
Because the reason why I ask is because, like, for myself, for example, I have a million ideas a day. And I'm probably sure you do, where you've got the property, you've got the tech, and it's like you're always innovating and the mind's always sort of on the go.
Yeah.
So I was trying to see whether you're moving into a completely new industry or if it's all sort of like all under the same umbrella, which makes sense. Yeah. So I guess for the people like myself and whatnot, who are always having ideas and kind of jump from new thing to new thing, rather than doing that, you probably say it makes more sense to find new things under the same umbrella, rather than jumping from, let's say, aviation to property to tech to, do you know what I mean? Because you sort of never get anywhere.
I wouldn't say you won't get anywhere, because look how broad, to a certain extent, someone like Elon Musk is, right? So you can't say you can't get anywhere by being very diversified, but I think there's a lot of value in like knowing, investing or spending your time in things that you understand, right? So that's my approach. Like I kind of understand not all things about property, but I know what I know. So I deep dive into that section and try to extract as much value out of the things that I know.
So we've spoken about your journey and obviously like your role into property, and kind of brought us up to close enough to present day. So if you had to kind of start again from scratch in present day, you're in 2023, you come back from holiday, you've got no deals going on, LeBurn's disappeared, where would you sort of position yourself? What business? Would it be property again? Would it be somewhere else? Or like, how would you get back to the same position you're in now?
I'll do the same. I only know property.
Okay.
In essence, yeah. So I'd do the same thing, right? So I would, if I didn't have any money.
Yeah. So you've got no money. So
no money. Then I have to start with the same journey that I've done from the beginning.
Okay.
I have to start with, okay, I don't have any money. I'm gonna acquire properties or lease properties, and then I'm gonna rent those properties out and make a margin.
Okay.
Which is like rent to rent strategy, right?
Yeah.
I don't call it rent to rent, but now these sort of terminologies have come about. So it's not, they're not doing anything different to what I've been doing for the last 10 plus years, right? So it's just called rent to rent now. So I think with no money, that is the strategy. Whether you decide to do Airbnb, or whether you decide to do HMOs, whether you decide to do what I do, which is work with government, it's still the same. The model is still the same.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting an asset at X, and you're looking to rent it for Y and make your margin. That is the model in simplest terms.
That makes sense. So obviously, after speaking to you like during this conversation, you seem to simplify things that aren't at face value so simple. Like, so for example, like with business, you speak about it as like, oh, it's just problem solving.
Yeah.
With rent to rent, it's just you get this property at X and you sell at Y, for example. Why do you feel like that's sort of like how your mindset works? How do you deconstruct things so easily? Is that something that you've kind of learned over time? Like, have you become a better problem solver over time, or have you always been this way? Are there specific skills or things that someone can do to become a better problem solver, or would you say you're just born with it?
Yeah, I think it's structure, like structuring the thing and working backwards, right? So I say, like, where do I want to get to, and then I reverse engineer back to where I am now. So I don't know if that's a skill, or I don't know if that's a skill, but
it's definitely a skill.
Then that's what it is. Then that is what it is. It's like, okay, and I do that with everything, like all targets, everything. So it's like, okay, well, we need to. This is the problem. Like, how do we solve that? How do we solve that problem? And then we just keep working back.
That makes sense. So would it be fair to say like business is a major sort of part of your life? Like, it probably takes up like most of your week and whatnot.
Yeah. At the moment, I thought that's all I do. I was actually having a
So
need to find a hobby or something.
For the people that care about like work-life balance and whatnot, and people that are looking at entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
is it advisable to kind of believe what's kind of professed and pushed on social media, that you jump into business, you work 10 hours, maybe a week.
10 hours.
10 hours a week from a laptop, you kick your feet up on the beach and you chill, do a couple of deals, go to sleep, and then enjoy the rest of your day? Or what is the reality of a businessman in terms of just a day-to-day life? And then also managing your personal life on the side of that.
Yeah. The reality is the 10-hour thing that doesn't exist. That's the first thing. That must be a myth. Introduce me to that person. But I think there's a difference. And this is the key thing. I think there's a big difference between having a business or running the business and making money. You can make money from your laptop, from the beach, and do it 100%. Of course you can. There's loads of examples, right? But that's not necessarily running the business, right? Not necessarily, because most of the time you're leveraging yourself, right? So if your product or your brand is solely yourself, you can't sell it. And the business should be a separate entity that should really be able to be sold, right? So there should be processes and procedures and moving pieces that happen without you being there, right? So to do that, that's the kind of hard work, or the time that takes it to get to the point where you're not having to do anything at all. But my week starts on a Sunday, right? So my week starts on a Sunday. I have a catch up with my assistant, and we go through the week, right? So throughout that every day, things are time blocked out for the things I need to do, right? So all my meetings are scheduled, all my if I've got one-to-ones, if I've got any events I've got to go to, anything I've got to do is scheduled on a Sunday, so I'm prepared, right? So my week starts on a Sunday. So then on the Monday or throughout the week, all I need to do is live in that minute, right? Because my week's already scheduled, I've done all the work to know what do I need to do, how do I need to do it, right? So, and I would wake up about 6, 7 o'clock, so not crazily early, 6, 7 o'clock. My first meeting is 9 o'clock, so still not crazily early. But I'm all work throughout the night, so I would probably finish working. I don't actually know. My wife will say I don't finish working.
Yeah.
But I would say I'd finish work about 9, 10 o'clock generally. But my wife will say, no, you don't. You finish at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't.
Does she understand? Obviously, presumably you've been with her for a long time, or?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've been together a long time, and she's also like ingrained in what we do as well. Right?
Okay.
So she's part of the business.
She's sort of integrated into the lifestyle rather than separate.
I don't know if she's part of the lifestyle, but
I mean, to an extent, if you're sort of working and like she's kind of there you go. That's what I was trying to get.
That partnership's important as well. So there's no issue of like, there isn't that issue just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
that issue just doesn't exist. So that's important. But as you said, there isn't a work-life balance for me. Like I'm pretty much 80 to 90% work and family. Don't get me wrong. So I still got to have time with my kids for the important things, like take them to football, pick them up from school sometimes, those standard things. But my world revolves around pretty much work. He was actually talking about that the other day. I was like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Like, what's this all about?
Yeah. It's an intervention.
Like what's going on here? What's going on here? Anyway, that's another topic for another day. But it's like, what would change if you add another zero into your bank account? Like, what happens?
What would change?
Good question.
For you?
Good question. I don't know.
Like, so why is there? Because obviously you kind of outlined your work week as it's non-stop work. So what are you working for at this point? Is it to add another zero? Is it to have something to do?
I've got a number. There's definitely a number.
There's a number.
Yeah.
So if I cut you a check for that number right now, you'd stop work completely and you retire and just spend time with the kids, the family?
No. I would stop working for myself and I would wake up to work for other people. So that would be the goal.
What does that mean? Is that charity? Yeah,
it could be charity. So whatever. Like at the moment, I work for that number, right? I work to improve the lifestyle for myself, my family, my kids, and the loved ones around me. That's the motivation to getting up from a financial standpoint. Within 10 years, that shouldn't be my motivation. My motivation should be how many other people can I affect by me getting up and putting my thought processes into solving another problem other than, okay, what's our ROI and what's our quarterly returns, right? So that number. I wouldn't necessarily stop working, but it won't be, my time shouldn't be for the benefit of just financial gain for my family.
So business kind of takes up your whole life. Is it something you enjoy or is it a necessary sort of component to get you to where you want to be? Like, do you see LeBurn as a vehicle to kind of take you to whatever your long-term end goal is? Like you mentioned, helping people or whatnot. Or do you kind of see it as like, this, I love it. This is my passion. This is...
Oh, I love what I do.
Yeah?
Oh, I love what I do. I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Okay.
I love what I do. I love when there's like some of the things are churning in my head for years and there's a problem and you manage to solve that, or you manage to solve that problem, or you create something, or you have an idea and you see it come to fruition. I love that. I love being able to, like now we're hiring people and people are needing this to be successful for their livelihood. Like I love that. Like it's pressure, but it's good pressure.
So if someone cut you a check for the number that you said, for example, to, let's say, be the CEO of their company, and you'll make this amount of money, whatever money you wanted to make over the next 10 years, but it was in a completely different industry to what you're in now. Is that something that you would consider? Obviously knowing the path and trajectory that you're kind of on, doing your own thing.
No. Well, if I had that, someone's going to give me that money, my end goal money.
Yeah, your end goal money.
But I've got to work still.
You got to work. So let's say I wanted you to run this sports shop, right? And I want you to be the CEO of it, manage the daily operations and whatever, for the exact figure that you've got in your mind. Would you move over, get rid of LeBurn and kind of work this to get to the money, or?
No, I'll stay with LeBurn.
You wouldn't jump ship?
Because LeBurn's going to get me there anyway.
Okay.
So the things we're doing, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I wouldn't change what I'm doing now and get the money, but then still have to work. Because whether I get the money now or get the money later, if I'm still working, it's still the same thing in essence, right? Okay. Because nothing really changes. The end goal of having the money is that you stop doing that. Okay. Right? So if I get that now and I still have to do that, but the only difference is I'm now doing it in something which I don't necessarily like or don't enjoy, then I wouldn't trade that. If you're like, do you give me the money now and then do I like let someone else come in and run LeBurn and they're going to do it in look after the people that we've got and grow the business and those things, but I'm not involved in that because I've got my money and I've moved on. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
That's interesting.
For that sum of money that I want. Yeah, for sure.
So obviously we spoke about how you build businesses and how you're mainly focused on like recruitment and stuff now, and sort of like new business development and whatnot. Yeah. So when you sort of like look at your team and stuff and like the stuff they're doing, do you feel like they can do things as good as you can do it?
Better.
Is that what you focus on? Someone that can do what you've been doing, but better than you can do it personally?
100%.
How do you find those people?
It's hard. It's hard. That's the challenge, right? The value of your business or product or service is the value of people that you have that believe in you and believe in your vision and believe in your journey. That is the leadership. Like, how many people can you align on the vision of where you're trying to get to, right? And the more you're clear of what that vision is, and what your culture of your business you're trying to create is, the more likely it is that you're going to connect with those individuals, or when you see those individuals, you'll understand it, or at least be able to see it, hopefully, to acquire those people, for sure.
So, with that being said, there's a lot of money obviously spent in recruitment every year across like multiple different industries and stuff. So, would you say that people are a more valuable resource than money, or would it be the other way around? So let's say, for example, if you had to start LeBurn with your current team now, and let's say for pure argument's sake, they're all working voluntarily, there's no money element of it. Or would you prefer to start with just money and you got no staff, no people, nothing? So you don't have assistant, you don't have whoever runs your businesses, that when you're not there, you've just got a stack of cash.
What, to run the business?
To run the business.
Oh, people.
You have to start with the people?
Yeah, you need people.
Okay.
You need people. You need money, but you need money so you can hire the people.
Of course.
So if you've got the people,
and they're all working, you prefer to start with the people.
Oh yeah, the teams. That's now the most important thing. So as I said, that we've got the maintenance contract, which is relatively new, and the first thing I did was build the team. That's the first thing I did. So yeah, the team is way more important. And I mean, like, the leadership team, like, that's the key thing.
Yeah. Is it more expensive to, I say start business that way, but I guess that's the way to create a business. You create the team first and kind of assign them jobs and let it sort of run for itself. But is it more expensive to do things that way? And would you recommend it more so to do it that way as opposed to being a sort of like a sole entrepreneur and doing all the phone calls yourself, doing all the sales, doing all the lead gen, everything?
You kind of have to. When you're first starting out, you can't. I can tell. It's kind of hard because I don't know all the answers. I can just tell you my journey.
No, 100%. That's what we're here for.
So my journey is I had to do that. Right. So one, I didn't know about building the team. I didn't understand about even because you can't build a team if you don't understand the journey yourself. Right. Yeah. So the first thing is I didn't know what my journey was. I was just like wanting to make some money. My back was against the wall. Yeah. So now, yes, I go into things, and before we even do anything, there's a plan, there's a structure. I know where so now people can follow because I've got a path that I can lead, right? So that situation's slightly different. But from a straight entrepreneur standpoint, which is making money, that conversation, yeah, you're in hustle mode, right? So that's, you do everything, right? So that's where I hear a lot where there's a lot of parallels between some people that may or may not make money legally or illegally because they have that hustle mentality. So if you have that hustle mentality of like you do whatever it is, that is definitely a transferable skill to making money legally. Like, just transfer that skill across, and you'll probably end up making more money than you're doing whatever you're doing over there. You make way more money legally if you just apply the same thing, 100%. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned like the hustler mentality, because I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, and like we kind of found that, or at least from our experience and what we've seen, is that the hustle mentality and wanting to do things all by yourself it's not directly applicable to business, because those hustle characters struggle to delegate. And that's why I was saying about like building a team and recruitment and stuff. Like, if you've come from that I'm the only person that's going to make this thing tick sort of mentality and that background, and then you go to start a business, you're going to meet a lot of challenges in terms of like you start micromanaging people, you hire the wrong people, you don't feel like anyone can do things as good as you do, and you kind of get in your way. And
I've done all of that.
Yeah?
Of course, because I've done all of that. This let's say version of me now is after years and years of
more refined.
Because and also being around other people. Because when I first started LeBurn, there wasn't any reference point I could go to. Right? I didn't know anyone that was in property doing business. There was no one doing business, right? None of my friends were in business. I didn't have any reference point. So it went until way later on, then you begin to see business. Like, you know, now I have a network of close friends like Dean, etc., that do business. So now you begin to see it, right? And you're like, oh, it's not actually about the hustle. It's about building the team, right? The things that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come that didn't come for me instantly, because for years I was the person doing all the calls, and it just so happened I had to hire people because I became too busy, like, to do it all. It was just impossible to do all those things. So then you end up having to bring a member of staff on. And then when you bring that member of staff on, you're like, oh, there's a whole new world that you now need to learn, like HR and pensions and all this sort of stuff. You're like, I just want someone to answer my phones.
Yeah.
Right. So I stumbled into all of those things. So my answer now is very different to my answer.
Of course.
Like,
but you started out as a hustler.
100%.
So would you say that version of Lee could kind of fill your shoes now? So if you had to get the younger version of you who was trying to rent out this property, do this deal on the phone at the bank, could he step into your shoes now and run the business like you do with his hustle mentality?
Yeah.
You think he could?
I think, yeah, because it's still me. Yeah.
It's still you,
yeah.
But obviously it's minus all the experiences and all the challenges and problems and solutions that you kind of encountered. So what I was just trying to see is whether, does the hustler translate well into the business owner immediately, or is there some sort of like a drop off? Because the hustling life to me is very quick. It seems very quick, but like obviously like doing business and stuff, like at times it can be very slow to get sort of deals. You got to have this meeting, you got to speak to people. These funds don't get released until this time.
Yeah.
So to me it seems like two different worlds, and I might be wrong. Obviously, I'm not at the sort of stage that you're at, but does the hustler translate well into the business world?
I think there's loads of. I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some things that you need to, you said, refine, but at your core, the core. I mean, we're using the word hustler, right? But at your core, that person is a person that's going to get things done. They're determined. They're like resilient. They're like, no matter what the situation is, we're going to find a solution, right? So that person is got the ingredients that is necessary to be a leader in business. Mm. That's the first bit. But then over time, you might learn the other things. Like you might learn the business mechanics, okay, return on investment, yields, setting targets, understanding why you set those targets, and understanding reasonings for those things. And those things might come later. And those things are the things that then allow people to follow, because you're not just saying to someone to do something for the sake of doing something. You can articulate why. And you're probably, like for the example where you said I was making those calls the other day, right? That's the hustler still in me. The hustler is, I'm going to do that first because I want to know what's possible here. So if I have 100 calls, what does that mean? What is that going to translate into? And then I can refine with the years of experience to understand the metrics that I'm looking for, right? So how much do these things cost me to get these 100 leads, right? So now I know my costing for marketing. From that, how many leads was generated, like real leads, right? How many of those leads are going to turn into actual deals? So then you can understand your conversion rates. And so over time, I can understand that. And from that, then I can then decide to structure the responsibilities or targets for the new person coming in, and set their salary and their bonus against those targets. So that thing comes kind of later. Mm. So now I can make those decisions from day one on how I'm going to hire, but based on still the characteristics of me initially being a hustler and doing the work first. So I think both is definitely important.
Okay. So obviously in your position now, so what advice would you give to that hustler version of Lee to sort of expedite the process to get you to where you are quicker? Like, what do you think like that version of you needed to learn to kind of take you here? So obviously you mentioned like you kind of encountered a bunch of different problems and stuff, and presumably you faced the same problem over and over again until you found a solution. Yeah. So what one single piece of advice do you think would be most beneficial to you? Education.
100%.
Elaborate on that, because it's very broad.
So the education can come in two ways. Education can come like via going to the formal way, schooling, university, and deep diving into that business studies or whatever those things are, right? So to deep dive and become an expert, knowledge from that standpoint. Yeah. The other thing is via experience. So my thing is through experience. But through that, you get loads of bumps and bruises, and luckily you might meet people, you build your network, and then you start understanding and learning. But that's experience, right? So, but both things tie into knowledge or education, right? So with that education now, I can now make these decisions. I can now become more refined, as we was talking about.
Yeah.
But if I went to university and I had all this information, then I'm refined. The things I'm talking about are things that are taught in university or college or in a book, right? So I'm not recreating something that isn't already out there.
Yeah.
It's information that's there that I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. So education, 100%.
Okay, so it's interesting that you mentioned university. So one of the kind of common issues that people have with university these days is how applicable it is to the real world. And like, for example, like with jobs and stuff, like there's a lot of entry level jobs that would say you need X amount of experience actually doing the job before they give you the job, but they're kind of perceived as entry level.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of opinion on university and how applicable is it to the entrepreneurial world? Because presumably you didn't go to university. No. I don't think that was included in the story. No. You kind of just picked up the phone and just went at it.
Yeah.
So at that time where you was kind of making money, you probably wouldn't have been eligible for a lot of entry level jobs, despite having sort of that background, because you don't have the degree.
Yeah.
So do you still think that university has a place in 2023 if you want to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, if you want to be an entrepreneur.
If you want to be an entrepreneur. Not if you just want to get a job and kind of like work, then go down that route.
I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, and I guess sometimes it's like, okay, let me ask you this. What's your definition of an entrepreneur? Then it will help me to understand the question.
It's difficult because everyone has their own.
Right.
I would say someone that has control over sort of how and when they make money to a degree.
When they make money?
Yeah.
So then you don't need a degree to do that.
Okay.
You can, as I said, there's loads of examples, right?
What's your definition of entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur.
Because no one cares about me. We're here for you.
Okay. so it's to me it's a problem solver, right?
Problem solver. Okay.
Right. So you're constantly not like, okay, there's this one thing and then you done that. For me, it's like, how does your mind work? Do you see problems and do you seek to find a solution to that? To me, that's entrepreneurial.
Okay.
Right. And with that, can you then find ways in where that becomes, you generate capital from that, right? That's because we're in a capitalist world, right? So that's, to me, that's what entrepreneurialism, and you don't need to go to university to do that, right? 'Cause you need to understand you only make money one or two ways, right? You buy something at point X and you're going to sell it at X plus Y, right? To make your margin, right? So those things you don't need to go to university for to make money. But when you get into talking about wanting to run a business or have a business, then there's way more to it than that. And that's where the education becomes valuable if you have that information.
That's interesting. So you really do see like a distinct contrast between making money and running a business?
Definitely.
That's interesting. I've never looked at things from that perspective before.
100%.
Okay, so to kind of conclude this, so what would you say to, let's say, a young person now, 18, 19, 20, what would you say are 3 skills that they would need to learn to be an entrepreneur?
Be an entrepreneur?
To be an entrepreneur in today's market, today's society.
Okay. I think it's about being able to work backwards.
Okay.
So know where you're trying to get to and then work back to where you are. Because no point in saying, I want to make £1 million. Like, okay, cool. So how are you going to make that £1 million, right? If that's the goal. Like, 'cause some people say their financial goal is to be a millionaire, right? But they're on zero or they're on, £100 or whatever. Okay, cool. So how is that going to work, right? And work backwards to do that. 'Cause otherwise, and if you can't do that, then maybe we shouldn't start with the £1 million. Maybe we start with, I want to get £1,000, because you probably can work your way backwards from £1,000 to where you are. So whatever that figure is, or not just figure, just in general, like the ability to figure out the steps on where you want to get to. You said 3.
Yeah, so 3. So that's the first one. So working backwards in terms of problem solving. That's 1. So what will be the second one?
Money management.
Okay.
Money management. Was this to do with to become an entrepreneur?
To become an entrepreneur.
Oh, to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Oh, to become an entrepreneur, I think you need to be resilient. You need to be resilient to become an entrepreneur, right? Because you're going to have loads of ups, downs. You need to be resilient. You need to have self-confidence, right? Because and you need to not be scared of knowing it could go all wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've got loads to lose and you're scared of that, or fear holds you back, then that's something to overcome, because it can be quite scary being an entrepreneur. Also, if you're a one-man band as an entrepreneur, you need to be comfortable knowing that most of your time is going to be just you.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to be able to look in your mirror and say, like, is this right? Like, okay, cool. And have the confidence to go with it. Right? And kind of be able to understand why you're choosing to do certain things. Not just say you're going to do something, but you have your reasoning for why you want to do that, and really stick to it and push it home.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Thank you for your time, Lee. I appreciate it. If you've got anything you need to kind of promote, any self-promotion, shameless self-promotion, this is the time.
Not really. I mean, we're launching the tech, right? That's going to be the big thing, and that's really to sort of empower agents in the space and change how we buy and sell property in the country. So that's the new thing that we're going to be targeting. But you're going to hear a lot more from me about that.
I hope so.
When it's the time.
I look forward to it. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.